Dear Ajahn, about this sutta, wonder why stated as mindfulness of the body, as the body cannot know the mind, but the mind can know about the body. Shouldn't it be cultivation and benefit about mindfulness of the mind?
It's mindfulness of the body because the mind knows the body. That's why it's called mindfulness of the body. It doesn't mean that the body is mindful. It just means that the mind is aware of the body. That's the meaning of mindfulness of the body in this case. So I think maybe you are looking at it in slightly the wrong way. You seem to be thinking that it means the body is mindful. No, it's not that the body is mindful. Mindfulness of the body means that it's mindfulness about the body. That's what it means, right? The mind is aware what's happening in the body.
Thank you, Ajahn. How do we go about developing strong mindfulness as we go about our daily work, daily life as a lay person? Is it through daily meditation?
It is through a number of things, but the most important way to achieve mindfulness is actually to have good conduct. Yeah, it is through good conduct that mindfulness arises. You see this in the suttas in many different places. You see that when the foundation for mindfulness is always two things. I mentioned this yesterday at the very beginning. The two things that give rise to mindfulness is sila. Sila is basically good conduct, and good conduct can be summarized into one word, and that is kindness. Yeah, so kindness, and the other one is right view, because right view allows you to remember what is important in life. It allows you to remember where you find real happiness. It reminds you where suffering is to be found. And because you have right view, it means your mind is always going to be directed in the right way. It's always going to be directed where happiness can be found. Yeah, this is kind of the point of right view. So that means that in daily life, because you have right view, you don't allow yourself to be distracted so much. You're not distracted by all the little silly things and the stupid things of daily life. And instead, you have mindfulness of what's happening within you. You have clear, I want to be sharp. I want to be aware of what is happening in my mind. You understand that your life depends on what is happening in your mind. Yeah. And because your life depends on that, because your future depends on that, because everything depends on that, you are very clear. Yeah. Because you understand the dangers of going wrong. I always like to say that in life, very often we fear the things that we should not fear, and we don't fear the things that we should fear. We are looking out for the wrong things. And the things that we should not fear, that we fear, is basically the way the world is going. We're always worried about the world. We're always discussing what is happening in terms of wars, in terms of climate change, in terms of refugees, in terms of drugs, whatever it is in the world. But these things are largely out of control. Yeah, the political situation in the world, whether it is in the United States or wherever it is in the world, is not something that we can do anything about. Maybe you don't like the president of the US, but even if you don't like him or her or whatever it is, nothing you can do. So forget about it. Yeah, forget about those things. So we are worried about all of these things in the world that we cannot do anything about, but we are not worried about those things that actually create our future. We're not worried about our speech, our actions, our mental state. This is what we should be worried about. So we are worried about the wrong things very often. Yeah, and this is a very important part of the problem. So when you have right view, you start to be worried about the right things. And when you are worried, not really worried, yeah, but just concerned, when you are concerned about the right things, it means that your mindfulness is very sharp because you know that you cannot afford to make a mistake. It is a bit like when you live in Bodhinyana Monastery, yeah, you have to go back to your kuti. I just saw a large snake the other day in the monastery here. So when I go back to my kuti, I know I have to look out for snakes. When you look out for snakes, you are mindful because you know you have to be concerned. You don't have to be fearful, but you have to be concerned at the very least. You have to know there is a danger there. And the snakes in our ordinary life is our bad conduct. these are the things that are really dangerous. So your mindfulness is of your conduct at all times to ensure that you are kind, you think in the right way, you direct your mind in the right way. And when you do that, then you live better. When you live better, you are more kind as a person. When you are more kind as a person, you are happy being present. You want to live in the present moment. The more kind you are, the more good you feel inside of yourself, the more easy it is to be in the present moment, because the present moment feels really nice. Yeah, you feel happy about yourself, your life is going well. The present moment becomes the pleasant moment, to use another of Ajahn Brahm's famous kind of little sayings that he uses. And then when this right view and the kindness come together, that is where mindfulness starts to happen. So if you want to be mindful in your daily life, these are the things that you have to do. That is why the Buddhist path starts with right view. Then you have right intention. Then you have all the virtues. Then you have right effort, which is about purifying the mind. Then you have meditation. Meditation is only step 7 and then step 8 on the Noble Eightfold Path. There is a reason why the Noble Eightfold Path works in this particular way. So focus on kindness in your life. The more kind you are, the more powerful your mindfulness is going to be. Also, if you wish, it is often good to do a little bit of meditation every day, just to keep calm, just to feel even, just to have a bit more metta and compassion in the world, because that will enable you to be more kind in daily life. Yeah. So meditation enables you to be more kind. This is one of the main purposes of meditation. The purpose is not just to be mindful. Just to be mindful without any clear direction is not helpful. You have to have a clear direction of why you should be mindful. Only then does it become powerful and useful. Okay.
Is Kayagata Sati considered as samatha? If so, from this sutta, it is explicit that Kayagata Sati can lead to awakening. Is it my misunderstanding that samatha meditations do not lead to awakening?
All meditation leads to awakening. There is no difference between samatha meditation and vipassana. It's the same thing. The idea that samatha and vipassana are separate meditation techniques is one of the great misunderstandings of the kind of modern world. We see this everywhere, this division between samatha and vipassana. And the reason that these are not separate is because what leads to samatha is the same thing that leads to vipassana. Vipassana just means seeing things clearly. Samatha means being calm. If you are calm, you see clearly. If you see clearly, you are calm. These are two sides of the same coin. You cannot distinguish between samatha and vipassana. So when you do mindfulness of breathing, you are doing both samatha and vipassana. When you feel very calm and then you come out of that meditation afterwards, your mind will be very clear. You will see clearly. And because you see clearly, you will have vipassana as you do that kind of meditation practice. If you see things very clearly, if you understand more about the 3 characteristics of impermanence, of suffering and non-self, then you will become calm, because that seeing clearly of things means that you will reject things, you will renounce them, because you will see that they are dukkha, they're not worthy of holding on to. So you become calm. They're two sides of the same coin. They cannot be distinguished from each other. And they both arise from the same cause. And the cause that both of these arise from is the reduction in defilements. As the defilements of the mind goes down, you have more calm, and you also have more vipassana. You also see things more clearly. So all of these things that you're seeing here are both samatha and vipassana. So for example, when we talk about the 31 parts of the body, what we are looking at is we're looking at understanding the dukkha of the body. We understand the body is not as beautiful as we think. It's the asubha, the non-beauty of the body. And in that sense, looking at it in terms of suffering or asubha, you can say that is an aspect of vipassana, because we're trying to see what it is clearly. But at the same time, when you do see the body in this way, you become peaceful. You become peaceful because you are giving up your attachment to that body. Yeah. So you can see how these things are very closely connected to each other. You cannot really distinguish samatha and vipassana in this way. So when people use the word vipassana meditation, it is more like a sales technique. Yeah, it's a marketing technique. Yeah? Because when you say vipassana and you say insight meditation, it sounds really good. Yeah, who doesn't want insight? Who doesn't want to be wise? Who doesn't want to see things according to reality? So it's a very smart kind of marketing technique, but actually it is really all the same. You cannot really make this distinction in practice. When you read the suttas, the Buddha never speaks of samatha meditation and vipassana meditation. For the Buddha, there is only one thing, and that is bhavana. Bhavana is meditation, and it leads to the development of the mind, and this distinction is not found anywhere.
Thank you, Ajahn. Independent origination, feeling leads to craving. Is it possible for any being to be born devoid of feeling and thus devoid of craving? How does one deal with their feelings besides mindfulness, as it seems to be a very difficult task for most humans?
You cannot be born completely devoid of feeling. There's always going to be some degree of feelings, but you can have feelings that don't lead to craving immediately. For example, when you have the feelings of the jhana states or the immaterial attainments, there is no craving that comes with those feelings. It is like you're just blissed out and you are completely peaceful. The mind is at rest and you are just enjoying those feelings without really having any craving at that time. Craving can sometimes arise afterwards, but not while you're having those states. So the idea then to overcome this link between feeling and craving, this is why insight is so important. Yeah, you need to see things according to reality. So insight is the outcome of samatha and vipassana. You have enough samatha vipassana, eventually it leads to very profound insight. And so the first step in the connection between feeling and craving is to have a degree of sense restraint. And when you have that degree of sense restraint, it means you are reducing the craving. When you reduce the craving, that means that your mind becomes more calm. You are able to meditate better. When you're able to meditate better, you go deeper and deeper into meditation until you attain a jhana state, a samadhi state. Because the samadhi state is so profound, it enables you to break through avidya. Avidya is the ignorance, the very beginning of dependent origination. Because you overturn ignorance, you understand that craving doesn't work. Craving is counterproductive. If you want to be happy, you should never crave, because craving is always looking for happiness in the future. But happiness is never found in the future. Happiness is found by making the mind peaceful now and experiencing the bliss of the jhanas in the present moment. That is where happiness is found. So you understand that craving is crazy. It's crazy to crave because it can never lead to happiness. Craving is the exact opposite of happiness. It takes you away from happiness. So once you understand where happiness is to be found, yeah, you will not crave again. What you will do instead, as you become peaceful, you let go of everything and you just experience the jhana and the samadhi in the present moment, because you know that is where happiness is to be found. So if you want to have happy feelings, craving is the wrong response. You don't get more happiness by craving. You get more happiness by not craving. That is why you give up craving. You understand that the craving is the wrong way of responding to happy feelings. So this is why insight is so important. And then once you gain that insight, that is when you know you deal with these things in the way that is wise, instead of always coming through craving with everything. You can take one more if you like, Bobby, if you have one more.
Okay. Should it be the 5 grasping aggregates or grasping of the 5 aggregates?
It is both. Yeah, so the idea is that the aggregates themselves, they grasp, yeah, they hold on to things in the world. So the aggregates that grasp, the aggregates grasp the world, but the aggregates are also the things that we grasp. Yeah, we grasp the aggregates, and the aggregates also do the grasping. Both of those sides are correct. But I think the main thing is that the main importance of this is that these are the aggregates that we grasp. Yeah, the aggregates that are grasped by us. These are the things that we hold on to. This is where we find a sense of self. Yeah, this is kind of the root idea and the root problem here.
Okay. Ajahn, could you comment on the following experience? Sharp ear pains before an earthquake, able to predict the Richter scale of the earthquake and pinpoint the minute the earthquake would hit.
Sorry, can you say that again one more time, please?
This guy actually has 5 questions. One is ask Ajahn to comment on experience of having sharp ear pains before an earthquake, able to predict the Richter scale of the earthquake and pinpoint the exact minute the earthquake would hit.
That's interesting, isn't it? It's kind of fascinating that this, and I think these things may very well be possible. I think this is not, I don't think this is any kind of nonsense or wrong or anything like that. I think the world is much more interesting than sometimes we think it is. The world has all kind of interesting things going on in it. And there is a kind of almost like a revolution happening in science and philosophy right now. There are things happening in the world that are very fascinating, where philosophers and scientists are starting to realize that the mind and the world are much more interconnected than what we normally think. Yeah, there's many things kind of going on there, which are very fascinating. Yeah. And so I think these may very well be possible because the mind and the world are not really separate. They are connected in so many different ways. So the fact that you should be able to predict an earthquake, if your mind is developed in a certain way, if your mind is attending to the world in a certain way, this could just be habits from a past life. It could be past things that you have developed your mind in a certain way. I think it may quite well be possible. Yeah, I don't think that is impossible at all because of that interconnection between the mind and the world. I don't know what more to say about it because I don't really know how you would do that or how it would happen, but I am certainly open to these kind of ideas because I think this is very much how the world actually works as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, smell rainstorms. Next one.
Smelling rainstorms. Yes, why not? I think, similar kind of thing. What is the world? What is the mind? Are they really separate or not? No, they're not separate. They are interconnected. So can you smell the rainstorm? Sure you can. It is just a particular mental impression of a rainstorm. I mean, one of the strange kind of sensory aberrations, sensory kind of dysfunction that you see in human beings sometimes is that some people, they can see what other people hear. Yeah, so instead of when there is a sound, instead of hearing the sound, they see a color instead, or they may see something with their eyes, but they experience it as a taste. Yeah, what they see. So they have some kind of cross connection in the brain that makes them, that the senses are somehow connected in the wrong way. So instead of seeing, you are tasting. Yeah, instead of smelling, you are hearing something. It's very, very strange. It's called synesthesia or something like that, I think. Yeah. And this idea of smelling rain, rain cloud, could maybe be a case of synesthesia, or it could just be a more immediate way of understanding that the rain is coming, the rain cloud is there. I'm not sure now.
Next one, sudden recollection of someone or venerable monks, then realize that person has indeed passed away the same day or before, almost at the time of recollection.
Yeah, and this is very common. This is a very, very common thing. Now we are kind of coming into what I consider much more ordinary things. And this is very common. There's all kinds of stories of, having dreams about people when they pass away, for example, and then hearing later on that they passed away exactly at the time when you had a dream about them. Yeah, they came to you or whatever in the dream, or you have this strange feeling, about the person, something kind of funny going with them, or you have maybe a flash of an accident or something happen, and then you see that they actually later on, they actually died in an accident, for example. This is quite common in the world. And if you have a very sensitive mind that has been developed in that way, and you have a connection to that person somehow, this really depends a lot on the people. People are very different, but some people are very sensitive, and these things can happen. So I have no doubt at all that this may very well be true. You cannot know that it is true. It could, sometimes it might be coincidence. Yeah, it's impossible to prove that it isn't coincidence. But I think in most cases it is true. And in this case, I cannot see any reason why it should not be true.
Okay, Ajahn. How do I gain the personal insight that happiness is to be away from craving? Intellectually, I understand, but I can't seem to experience it spiritually.
So the way to gain that is to just experience what you feel like when you have no craving. Yeah. Sometimes you will have very powerful craving, and you will feel the agitation and restlessness that comes from that craving. At other times, you will feel very peaceful. So compare the state of peace, compare that to the state of craving. And it's quite easy to see that the craving is actually very unpleasant because it is so agitated, it is so restless. You cannot enjoy what you are having right here in front of you. It's like you are driven by something. It's like you are the slave to craving. Craving is taking out the whip, and whipping you and saying, run, work harder, get all these things that you want. Desire is there to push you so you can experience all of these things in the world. You're not really in charge of yourself. You are the slave to this craving. And then you compare that craving, that feeling of craving, to what it feels like when you are really peaceful. What does it feel like to be really peaceful? The deeper the peace is, the more happiness there will be with that peace. There will often be lots of joy. There will often be lots of happiness. The more deep the peace is that you have, the more powerful the experience is going to be. And it's going to be very obvious to you after a while that when the craving is completely gone and you're feeling absolutely at peace and you're feeling really joyful and happy, you will know, the deeper the experience is, the better you will know that craving is the enemy. Craving is the thing that takes you away from happiness. It doesn't bring happiness at all. All it does is take you away from happiness. So just notice these things in your life, and notice how craving never really satisfies you anyway. It always just brings more craving. It just goes on and on forever. One of the difficulties is that we often identify as the doer. We think that we are the doer, and because we identify as the doer, when we do things, we gratify our sense of self. So when you do things, you feel alive. You feel that you are, yay, I'm alive, I'm doing things. And because we identify with the doer, we take craving to be something positive, because then craving actually makes us do. And because we like to be the doer, we then make the mistake to think that craving is a positive thing. But you are not actually the doer. That's another illusion. So it's everything, it's illusion upon illusion. And we get this web of illusion where we're completely immersed in darkness and we don't really understand what is going on. Craving is an illusion. The identity with craving is an illusion. It's just one thing after the other. So try to understand these things a bit more clearly, and then you will gradually you move away from craving.
Yeah, Ajahn. This is all for now.